We're already in July of 2025. We are over halfway done with this year, which is crazy to think about. Today, we're going to be going over 10 ways to reframe and realign with a more productive version of yourself in order to make the rest of 2025 the productive it girl era that you were expecting to have in January. And ultimately, this is going to set you up for a very incredible 2026 and those 3 to 5 year plans that you have set, which you do. You have them set. The first thing is if you're like me, where you've been experiencing some medical issues that have stunted your ability to show up as fully as you would like to, whether it's changes to your body hormonally that affect your energy levels and how well you show up, I want to remind you that we are not broken. Our bodies have not failed us. It's communicating with us in the only way that it knows how. And this is a moment for us to stop and listen. So we're going to take a deep breath in. And we are going to remember that this video is not to shame us, not to make us feel smaller because we haven't achieved our goals. It is here as a reminder that nothing can stop us from achieving the goals that we have set out for ourselves. We just might need a different approach to them. So as always, this is not a comprehensive list. This is just a good starting point. And these are also things based on my own experiences and what has helped me really achieve the most and optimize the most time, especially as someone who has been dealing with medical issues. So let's get started. The first thing, based on what I've told you about my own health and really getting in the weeds of my diet, exercise, and realigning myself, you really want to make your health a tangible goal on your list. You don't need another hot girl skincare list. You need to stop being constipated. You need to not buy another set of products or figure out what everybody else is doing. You need to make sure your colon is not reabsorbing toxins. Our health has so many impacts on our well being. When you do not feel more energized, capable of going after your goals, it really does stunt you. And you can in turn internalize that feeling and think you're actually lazy when really you're hormonally imbalanced. And when we say that our health goals is one of the things we're actually making time for, we're creating a foundation for our goals and the success to actually free flow from. The second step is to really set goals for every aspect of your life. I like to think of this as micro to macro goals. When you have small goals or what seems like small goals, they actually have a greater impact on your bigger goals. Like I was saying with the first goal with your health can be impacting your ability to show up at work, your ability to set those goals, your ability to take the time to actually achieve the outside of work things that you desire, your personal goals, your hobbies. And when we neglect those smaller things because we think they're too small to celebrate, we're actually setting ourselves up for failure. So you want to have goals for your health, for your business, for your personal life, for your family that allow you to see how integrated all of those pieces are. Number three is that not everything needs to be told to other people. Not all of your goals need to be shared, but you do need to know the difference when it's actually helpful for you to communicate that with other people. The women that I have surrounded myself with, as far as business is concerned, or my other goals outside of my personal life, they have a different set of skills, drive than I do. And sometimes my nervous system doesn't feel safe enough setting these bigger goals, but theirs does. And having people who see your potential sometimes clearer than you do allows you to see yourself more clearly. It allows you to actually go for these deeper goals, these bigger goals that sometimes would not feel safe for you to actually achieve on your own. And if you're surrounded by the wrong people, it can make you feel like there's something wrong with you even wanting it. Yes, sometimes we want to keep things quiet and not tell everybody, but other times we do need our community. We do need women who want to see us strive for bigger goals and will lovingly push us to that limit. The next tip is to chunk out your year. Something that I like to do that has really helped me achieve everything that I desire is that I don't try and achieve everything all at once. I may have goals specifically for the year, but I focus on them in bite sized pieces. So the beginning half of this year, I really focused on my YouTube as well as my business. And the latter half of the year, I'm really prioritizing my health, my own personal goals that I have for my health. This allowed me to really achieve the things that I wanted to because my attention wasn't spread out on everything. Now, once the things within my business felt like they were not running on autopilot, but we had systems in place that really made the next steps easier and less work. Now, when I go to shift to my other goals, I'm not leaving that without any kind of plan or direction, but it feels easier to return to those systems versus trying to juggle so many things at one time. So sometimes when you feel like you're not achieving your goals, it's not because you aren't focusing on them. It's because you're focusing too much on too many things at one time. And you're not giving yourself permission to say, for the next 3 months, I'm only going to be focusing on this one thing. We feel this sense of guilt when we don't have everything on our plate at one time. And that's a nervous system response. That's not necessarily fact. That's not like something you should be doing. This also trains our nervous system to return back to healthy habits. So, because I've set out to create systems in my business, when things get overwhelming, because now I'm adding more things to my plate, I know to return back to those systems. I don't say, well, let me shut down. I don't know what to do, the way that you would normally do things. So, for me, when I get overwhelmed, I feel too stressed. One thing that I do is stop eating. I will shut down that really quickly because I feel too distracted to make a meal, to make a healthy meal, to organize meal prep. But when I have a system in place where I've said that this is my goal for the next 3 months to really prioritize my health, when I get stressed, I notice it now. I'm not returning back to those old unhealthy habits that really didn't serve me or help me create the goal or the life that I wanted, which links to my next tip, which is to anchor in your habits. Anchoring habits are going to be things that we do daily, regularly, or they're so ingrained in us as a system, it's easy to return to them. And then what I like to do is link new goals or things that I'm trying to do with those already anchored goals. So, for example, one thing that I do is go to the gym and go for a walk daily. However, when I have to film, especially for the Body Code Reset program that we're running or YouTube, which, by the way, if you are someone who is interested in resetting your nervous system in order to achieve the dream life that you desire and you've tried everything and you feel like you just want a community or a place where someone is actually listening to you, that is linked below if you would like to join the waitlist. But when I go thinking about filming for Body Code Reset or for my YouTube channel, I know that that means it's going to be a busier day. But the things that, and I also know that if I try and film that after the gym or after a walk, I'm probably going to be too tired or too sweaty, too drained, too fatigued to even make it a priority and really put myself into it. So I know that I have to do it before I try to do anything else. And because the gym and going for a walk is now anchored in as a habit that I do daily or at least a certain number of times a week, I can just link that new goal of filming ahead of those already established goals. Another simple thing that I do is I like to have step count goals for the day. And sometimes at the end of the day, when I have a couple thousand steps left, I link it to brushing my teeth. So I have a timer on my toothbrush, and sometimes waiting that 2 minutes is a little bit boring. So I will walk around my house and until the timer runs out. And that does two things at one time: get the steps that I need to, but also brush my teeth. And then in less time, it feels like. But it's not saying compromising that I'm not going to do this because I'm too tired to do that. It's joining those goals or putting them into place around these already anchored goals or anchored habits. So for you, let's say that you wanted to start having a nervous system reset morning routine where every day you are really prioritizing calming your system, but you're someone who's in a rush. So when people say you need to get sunlight immediately when you wake up and they're like, go for a walk, that's not realistic for me. However, I have a window right by my bed. So I will wake up and instead of going for a walk, I will open the curtains and just stand in front of this window and let the sun hit me. And that's a way of resetting my circadian rhythm without having to actually go for the walk. So you could do something similar where if a walk is something that is permissible for you, you can do it and you want to, then you should. But maybe you add that in with your already anchored habit of breakfast. So before you go for breakfast, you've gone for your walk, or after you have breakfast and then you go for a walk. If you're someone who has a dog and you need to let your dog out, maybe you get in your steps, you go a little bit further on the days when you need to take your dog out. This is a way of adding on smaller goals to these already anchored habits. So it doesn't feel like you're trying to drag yourself into doing something that's not right for you. It already fits into your lifestyle, it's more natural for you. My next tip is a nervous system tune up. Reframing the way that you talk about yourself or the way you talk about your habits is really going to help you because sometimes you're not actually lazy. You just don't feel safe enough actually achieving those goals. Surprisingly, if your nervous system, your body does not feel safe with these bigger goals that you're setting, it's like that point I made before where I've surrounded myself with women who it feels safe for them and in their body, then it almost like does an energy transfer where I don't feel like I'm trying to struggle myself into those bigger goals. It feels safe in that safe environment. And this, and for you, if you're setting these goals and you notice every single year you don't actually achieve the goals that you set for yourself, but you shame yourself and call yourself lazy or stupid, or you feel like you weren't worthy of that goal, that's not going to help you actually achieve your goal. And it's not getting to the root cause of why you're not achieving your goals. Sometimes you could have a hormonal imbalance, and that's why you struggle to get out of bed every single day. Sometimes, especially fatigue, is not just having low energy one day. Fatigue is like your tank is already on half empty, and you have to decide what is most important that you want to achieve in that day because you know it's going to drain you. If you are someone who has these issues and instead of seeing it as your body is trying to communicate to you what it needs in that moment, it needs more rest, it needs more vitamins, it needs more care, more love, more attention, and you just say, I'm just being lazy, you're going to create resistance in your life. You're actually not going to get yourself to push further. Because if that was the case, negative self talk would get us a lot further than it actually does. So, when we do a nervous system tune up, we're saying when you set out these goals for the year, for the next quarter, for the rest of this year, what do you feel in your body when you say, I want to achieve XYZ? I want to lose this much weight. I want to go for a job promotion. I want to add walking to my list. I want to add a water goal to my list, drinking a certain amount of water every day. What do you feel in your body? Do you feel resistance? Do you feel like it's okay for you to do? Or do you have a nagging voice of people who told you it wasn't possible for you? You want to address that because if you don't address that, you're going to think to yourself that that's your own voice and then you're going to move forward and that will sabotage you. This is why self-sabotage is so sneaky because you're not actively consciously going out trying to destroy your goals or your path. My next tip is father time. Do not be afraid of time. Sometimes when we set goals for ourselves, the thing that sabotages us the most is that we don't attach a realistic time to it. Sometimes we can feel really uncomfortable when someone says, is that realistic for you? Or do you think that's a realistic goal? It's less of they're trying to say that it's not possible for me, which granted, some people could be saying that. But if you're not saying that to yourself and that's not what realistic means to you, then let's be honest about the time that we're attaching to this. If you say you want to achieve a goal that's going to realistically or take you several months to achieve at best, why would you set that goal for next week? Why would you shame yourself because you're not seeing progress next week? When we say to ourselves, I want to see what I will look like in a year from now if I continue on this path, we're giving ourselves a goal of a year out. We're saying we plan on sticking with this plan X, Y, and Z for the next year. And this was something I struggled with, which is why I'm telling you, because I had a problem with feeling like if I'm saying that I really want to achieve this, why would I give myself a deadline of next year? Why would I say it should look like this 3 years from now. But what I was neglecting to acknowledge is that I was not saying that I wasn't working on that goal for the next year. I was just saying, this is what hope for it to look like in a year. This is what I believe it can look like in a year. And the same with you. If you give yourself permission to maintain a goal for the next 6 months, in between that time, you're going to have mile markers, checkup points where you assess where you are and are you still on that path? Do you still want to go on that path? But you're not saying that you're not going to actually be working on those goals. So never be afraid of time or adding time or saying that it's okay for this to take time. People who are really successful and have high levels of success, they have goals for several months out, but also years out. And I think a lot of us would be surprised at how many of them don't even expect to see results within that 6 month window. If we gave ourselves permission to do the same, how much less pressure would we be under to achieve everything that we said we wanted to within 2025? You would realize that you're laying the groundwork for your 2026 goals and beyond. Next tip is to execute with or without fear, even if it's messy. Some of the goals that I achieved this year were not because I was seeking perfectionism. I was not interested in it looking perfect. I was not worried about what people would think, the critics of how I was doing it, why I was doing it a certain way. I was not interested in their opinions. And I think a lot of those people who criticize you, if you do it without caring what they're going to think because they're not who we're interested in, they're going to be shocked that you're not distracted by their inner critics. But the truth is, I don't have that same inner critic because I'm not afraid of people seeing me do it wrong or do it messy, because I know in those moments I tried my best and I really did show up for myself. I can look back and say I put in 100% effort. I really did try. And I'm so much further along than when I first started. That's how I know that messy process is part of it. Because the more you show up, the more you can tweak what you're doing. If you're trying to look perfect the first time around, you're never going to start. My next tip is to reframe fear. Every time you go to start something and you're afraid of doing it, fear is just face everything and rise. Some of the scariest moments that I've had, when I pushed through them and I allowed my nervous system and my brain to rewire around this new path, this new way of doing things, this new habit, when I anchored in new habits, even if it didn't feel comfortable, even if it looked messy, even if no one else around me knew what I was doing and could understand, I still showed up. Because I will tell you that the women I told you about that are part of the team that's helping me achieve my goals, they found me because I showed up. Because I wasn't worried about what it would look like to people who criticize me, what it would look like to my haters who I don't even talk to, what it would look like to people whose lives I don't even want to emulate. They found me because I showed up messy, because I uploaded that video and I wasn't concerned about what somebody would say about the way that I looked or how I said it or my mistakes or the fact that I wasn't perfect and my videos weren't perfect. They found me because of that. And now we're building something beautiful together because I showed up, even though I had fear, even though it wasn't perfect. My last tip is to treat yourself like a CEO. Be intentional about your monthly, yearly, quarterly reviews. When you treat yourself like you're someone whose opinion matters, your behavior matters, there's consequences to your actions, you will treat your life. It's something that you are intentionally curating and creating. Just like when a company has problems, when you go to a restaurant or you go somewhere and you don't like the service or there was an employee who was rude to you, you are asking for the supervisor. And if that supervisor doesn't give you the response or take you seriously, you want to find the next person up. And you keep going until you find the person responsible and you say that it is their job to retrain the people below. The same with you in your life. If something is going wrong in your life, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily the cause, but you might have the solution. And even if you don't have the solution, you have the intelligence and awareness to go find the solution. CEOs don't have to be perfect. It's not about being at the helm and never taking the opinion of other people. It's about knowing the right relationships and how to leverage those connections and leverage your own skill sets. What you're capable of and what you're capable in, that's what you need to focus on. I spent this year hiring people who are really experts in their field, whatever that looks like for me, however it applies to my business or to my life. I didn't try to micromanage those people. I asked them questions based on what I cared about, and then I waited to see how they could take what I was asking and make it better. But if I decided that I'm waiting for someone else, you spend too much time outsourcing your happiness, your joy, your peace, your direction, your energy, and you're waiting for approval instead of taking action and doing the things that you desire in your own life. And a bonus one before we end is that the pain of staying the same needs to outweigh the temporary discomfort of change. When we get so fixated, so weighed down by the idea of being a different person, changing our lives to the point where we don't move, we're too afraid to actually do anything, what happens is we end up being a lesser version of ourselves. Everybody is going to feel discomfort, no matter who it is, no matter how flawlessly you see someone executing on their goals, they still had discomfort of that change. They still had to say to themselves, every day that I'm showing up and it sucks and I'm not seeing the results, do I want to still be this same person 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now? That should scare you. If your current situation isn't where you want to be, that part should scare you enough to get you going. And for me, that's something that I rely on. I think about, what do I want to be a year from now? Where do I want to be? And even if I can't clearly see that outcome because I haven't experienced that timeline yet, I know that where I am right now, I don't want to be here in a year from now. That is the end of this video. I hope that you took what you needed from this and that you're able to reframe your view of the rest of 2025 and you can make 2026 exactly what it needs to be, because you're setting yourself up now for the next 5 months, because we're already halfway through July, which is just crazy. I want you to remember that the version of you you desire to be is possible for you. It is just a matter of setting goals, executing on those goals, having a plan, reassessing where you are, and if you're closer to those goals or not. It's not impossible for you. As always, I love you so much, and I will see you in the next one.